College football's first ever semifinal is all set with Florida State taking on Oregon. Mark Rogers TV here to preview the Rose Bowl with Amanda Pflugrad of the Pac-12 Network. Amanda, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, of course, Mark. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so before we dive into the football, it's really cool that you were an Oregon cheerleader. So can you give us a little bit of insight into what that was all about?
Yeah, cheering for Oregon, it was such an amazing opportunity. I think about that quite a bit, just looking back and how much fun I had. And at the time, my brother was actually playing football at Oregon, and my dad was the wide receivers coach. So we kind of always talk about that we had a family affair on Saturdays. So it was an amazing experience. Loved every second of it. I wanted to go back for one more season, which would have been 2011. So I would have gone to the national championship game and cheered that. But I always kicked myself of maybe I should have stayed a little bit longer. But that was a great time in my life.
Well, I think it's really great that you've got some pretty unique insight in that you cover the sport. As you mentioned, your dad is a coach, and your brother played, and also you were there at Oregon. So you cover all angles in terms of this Oregon matchup and the Ducks' prominence in college football just over the last 5 or 10 years, really reaching the elite of college football. And obviously, much of the recent success has to do with their Heisman Trophy winner, Marcus Mariota. So just from your perspective, what are the intangibles, the tangibles that just make him such a special player?
Yeah, I think for him, just his ability to extend plays, really allowing to let the tight ends and wide receivers get open. We all know that he's a dual threat quarterback, and just his mobility. He's so smooth, a great decision maker. And I think that he's just been such a leader for this Ducks offense. I was able to talk to him when my dad used to coach at Oregon, so I'm pretty close still with the coaching staff there, and just what the staff has said just about him as a person. And I was at Pac-12 Media Days, and he's just such an intelligent player. And I think his maturity is really strong, and just his ability also to command the huddle. I think that he has such a great leadership role with the team, and you can really tell not only from the coaching staff but also what his teammates say about him as well.
So Marcus is the star, but for some of those fringe college football fans who just dive into postseason play and into these championship games, just your thoughts about maybe some other impact players to be watching out for?
Yeah, I think one huge guy for them is Royce Freeman, the freshman running back. Just what he's been able to do. I think he's almost rushed for 1,300 yards this season, and just coming in and being at such a young age to be able to do that, you know that they'll just be able to build on that moving forward. And then I also think the wide receiver group that they have Byron Marshall, in that the wide receiver matchup of Oregon versus Florida State secondary. I'm really looking forward to that and kind of seeing how that plays out.
Now, Amanda, this may get under the skin of most Oregon fans, but I have to bring it up in regards to being one of the elite programs in college football. But it seems as though when Oregon faces some of the muscle teams, maybe going back to the Rose Bowl game against Ohio State, LSU in a season opener, the national championship game against Auburn, and of course those titanic matchups against Stanford, losing about 3 out of 4, I think, during one stretch against the Cardinal. Those muscle teams have given you problems, although the Michigan State game earlier this season is a good indication that maybe this Oregon team's a little bit different.
Yeah, and I when I was in school there, that I feel like that Oregon was coming to the prime of the prominence of the program and just continuing. I think each year the Oregon's defense continues to improve, but I think a big thing for the Ducks right now is Mariota and having the addition of him. And just, I feel like right now he's playing at the top of the game. Clearly, obviously, we've seen that with him winning the Heisman Trophy. But I think that's been a huge addition to for what we've seen for Oregon these coming years.
So, Amanda, you've got Florida State. They've won 29 consecutive games. They're the defending champions. At the same time, don't seem to get much respect based on just winning against marginal teams in very close fashion. But what kind of concerns do you have about Florida State?
I think the biggest thing for this matchup for me is the Oregon's defense going against Florida State's offense and Jameis Winston. I think that's going to be a good matchup to see, but I also think too that Florida State's going to be able to put points on the board. There's no doubt about that. But in the end, I think Oregon's gonna end up on top. But I think that's the biggest thing that sticks out on how Oregon's defense is going to be able to defend against Florida State's offense.
So there have been a lot of big games for Oregon in recent years, none bigger than the BCS championship game, such a close loss against Auburn. But this is something special, it just being a playoff situation in college football for the very first time. So how would you rank this in regards to the biggest games in Oregon history, or at least as long as you've been involved and watching?
Yeah, I mean, starting off, I think the biggest one that I was a part of was when I went to the national championship game when Oregon played Auburn. They only lost by 3 points, and I think that really showed that Oregon was able to hold their own in that. And then I was able to cheer in the Rose Bowl when Chip Kelly was there my senior season. But this one, I think this is really special, and I think a huge one that could potentially happen is the matchup between Oregon and Alabama in the national championship game. I know everyone wants to see that. Everyone talks about that about the how the Pac-12 would contend with the SEC. So I think that's something that I'm keeping my eye out for, and I'm definitely thinking could be potentially the biggest matchup in Oregon history.
And then there's some people that actually are watching to see what uniforms Oregon chooses for this game.
Yes, that's very true. That's a big topic. I really like the green on green. I think that really stands out. I don't know. I've always really liked it when I've seen it. Obviously they have a number of uniforms to choose from. But I mean, I like all their uniform combinations.
Amanda Pflugrad joins us from the Pac-12 Network to break down the Rose Bowl. Thank you so much, Amanda. We appreciate the information and the insight.
Yeah, thanks, Mark, for having me. I appreciate it.